You're watching ESPN Classic.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Roy Firestone, and this is Up Close Classic. Baseball career as a bat boy for the USC Trojans. Was signed by the Dodgers out of high school. And even though he played just one season in the major leagues, he's still a Hall of Famer. He is George Lee Anderson, better known to baseball fans as Sparky. During his more than 25 years as a major league manager, Sparky led the Cincinnati Reds to 2 World Series championships and the Detroit Tigers to 1. He's the only manager to win the World Series in both leagues. Sparky Anderson won more than 2,000 games as a major league manager and is one of the most respected members of that fraternity. As a manager.
Well, I will say this, Roy. Don't think you have any tricks in your bag. Because if you do, throw them out. Because they ain't going to work.
There's no tricks.
No, there ain't no tricks in your dugout that I don't know. So don't be trying to give me that. The thing I think, if I did anything well is, and I try to explain to young managers, I always pick a guy, like Griffey Jr. right now. If I take the bat from him, and he got very upset one day in Seattle, we played him a 3-game series, and I told my pitchers, he don't swing. And I walked him 7 times in 3 games. If you take the bat from the king, they got a problem. And that's what I always did. I took your best guy from you. Look, players do the winning. Players also do the losing.
Right.
You are there to keep them working together.
You talk about the importance of a manager. Maybe you don't because you think it's the players. But a lot of people say there are geniuses in the game of baseball. Does it bother you? You're never referred to as the genius. Mark is, and yet he's never won. And you've won, what, 3 world championships now? I mean, really, to not be included in the list of the great managers, at least in the minds of a lot of people, does that bug you?
Well, no, because the records speak for themselves. I think what I did my first year when I came to the big leagues, I said anybody could win with a good team. And my wife reminded me of that. She said, you know, your whole career, you've always said you don't have nothing to do with it. She said, people believe you. I said, well, you know, that's fine. I said, I don't really care how they think or believe. All I know is, honey, when this thing's all said and done, it's there. Now judge it. All I want to do is, when I'm finished, take it and judge it. And I hope that it'll be enough that they'll judge it and vote me in.
But you have to deal with the star players. And I guess this is part of the job. On a certain level, the caudal players, the big contract players. We're going to roll up some videotape of a player that really didn't give you too many problems, and that's Johnny Bench. But still, you treat the star players differently, I think. You have to, don't you, Sparky?
Well, I do. I always have.
How so?
Well, and you treat them with the respect they've earned. See, I look at it this way. Bench, Rose, Perez, Morgan, Concepcion, Foster, those people, Griffey, they earned that. Well, my Lord, you treat them totally different. I will speak to them and talk to them why tomorrow you're not going to play. I'll let them know. First, second-year guy or a guy that's never done it, why? For what? I mean, he don't deserve that yet. He hasn't earned it.
You take a look at some of these moments with Johnny Bench, the greatest catcher probably you've ever been associated with. And those years, they bring back memories, I'm sure, the Reds years.
Yes, and the thing that's so great about these people, they knew how to win, and they knew how to be professional, and they knew how to be stars. They knew they were stars. They knew what depended on Pete Rose and Bench and Morgan, those people, Perez, they knew they were stars. Nobody had to tell them.
Yet for you, back in 1978, and it's going on, what, 7 years now, get fired by the Reds after winning back-to-back world championships. And I know it hurt because I was with you that day. There's no lingering bitterness or resentment from Dick Wagner's part or anybody in the management front office?
Because it never was Dick, you know, and I always knew that. And I think the thing that I had always the greatest respect for Dick Wagner was the fact that he never said any different. In other words, he took the blunt of the attack and had the people calling him everything. I felt for him. And I said, Dick, my Lord, why do you do this to myself? But I said, that's a man. He's in that job now. He's the general manager. He's going to take full responsibility. And to me, that's what I do. I feel I do as a manager. I must take the responsibility, even if it isn't my fault. I must take it. The player can't take it.
It broke your heart to be
released by the Reds. So much so that when you got to Detroit in '84, you wanted to prove that they were wrong. You were driven. You were obsessed to win because you wanted to prove them wrong, right?
No question. Yeah, I wouldn't deny that. Until that '84 thing and we won, that took everything away. Then I had no more worry about Cincinnati. I had no more anger, had no more anything. But I tell you, Roy, I had to go with the Reds hat for one reason. Bob Howsam. Can you imagine this, and you look back on your career? Yeah. Bob Howsam hired a 35-year-old that if anybody dare ever say that they knew about me at 35, they're lying. Because at 35, there ain't a soul that knew about me. I had never even managed higher than AA, and he gave me the Cincinnati Reds. Now, that man either had to be crazy or a genius, and it turned out to
maybe a little of both.
Yeah, it turned out a little of both. But his job, you know, let's face it now, that's taking quite a thing. He had to be repaid. See, my daddy also taught me that. You always repay people when they do good things for you.
Coming up on Up Close Classic, Sparky on some of his managing philosophies.
I said, Tom, I'm going to tell you something. My mother loved to pitch, but she ain't going to pitch for me. And I love you, but you ain't going to play shortstop.
Right. Welcome back to Up Close Classic. I'm Roy Firestone. Sparky Anderson posted 17 straight winning seasons with the Reds and the Tigers. He is one of the winningest Major League managers in history, and he did it all with his own unique style.
We have a list of some of the crazier things that you've said over the years. Let's start with this one. If I ever find a pitcher who has heat, a good curve, and a slider, I might seriously consider marrying him or at least proposing. I mean, you have a love affair with pitchers, right, Spark?
Well, I'll tell you, boy, it's hard to find those good pitchers.
Okay, let's take a look at some. These are overstatement things, too. Talent is one thing. Being able to go from spring to October is another. Now, that's kind of profound. That's true.
I think that is a true thing, though. I mean, it's pretty tough to go from April to October and stay on top.
Mm-hmm. And he always loved the big pitchers. And this is what Sparky said. My mother, I love her, but she don't pitch for me.
And I'll never forget Tom Monahan said he wanted to play shortstop. He loved to play shortstop. I said, Tom, I'm going to tell you something. My mother loved to pitch, but she ain't going to pitch for me. And I love you, but you ain't going to play shortstop.
Right. And of his wisdom, he said, this year I'm smart, but in a few seasons, I'll be dumb all over again. You've always been grounded in that way. Always remember the humility.
Yeah, well, I always remember, I have a sign in my room that Jimmy Reese made for me. He said, every 24 hours, somebody on top of the mountain will fall. And that's there to remind me.
Yeah. But you've been on the top of the mountain for much of your career, and it took a long time for you, Sparky. I mean, somebody once said that your face was described as a road map of every stretch of minor league highway you've traveled. You really paid your dues. It took a long time. The humility comes from where you came from.
But it was fun. The dues were fun. And I was telling my wife today, coming here, I remember running into you in Miami when you were just starting out as a kid. I'll never forget that night. You interviewed me right down the right field line. I remember those things. I don't like to forget those things. And I mean that truthfully. A lot of people say, being good about it. No, if we forget that, or if I don't clean up my own office, I clean up my own office. I pick up my own towels. I hang up my own uniform. That's a must to me. Now, somebody else, maybe not, but to me, it's a must. I never lose that.
Another important quality to Sparky Anderson is the word loyalty. Loyalty is everything to you. When Don Gullett left the Reds in his great years to go to the Yankees, it hurt you. Hurt you in the heart. You felt, in fact, you even used the word deserter.
I was wrong, because he did nothing illegal. But that was at the time, Roy, when it just happened. It just was a change over there. For instance, Parrish and Gibson, there's never been a thought or feeling that way. They did nothing illegal. They did everything above board. They were honest. And Don was honest. It's just that at that time, that was the beginning of it, and I thought, this is just totally wrong. If I had it to do over again, the one thing is Don Gullett. I've totally forgiven that in myself. But I wish I would have never, because that boy did nothing wrong. He did it legally.
Can't forget the great years in Cincinnati, the championships and all of it, the back-to-back World Series, of course. Some great people, great stories. Antanasio Regal Perez from Camagüey, Cuba. They called him Doggy, Tony Perez. This was a man who would be the key needler, the chief needler in the Reds clubhouse, Tony Perez.
I never knew until he went to Montreal in 1977 that he might have been the biggest thing when you came to force on the club. And without him, I noticed a tremendous difference. He could be able, Joe Morgan and him, they'd go back and forth. I'd love to put them at the same batting field during spring training, because it'd be Morgan and Bench and Rose and Perez. I put them in the same place because I knew one thing. The young guys would watch them, how they would go at each other, and they would learn that this is a fun game.
Also, Perez brought out Davy Concepcion. He helped him
He made him.
He really did make him, and he also helped bring him out to the press. Davy was very, very shy when he came in, and Perez brought him along.
He roomed with him. He treated him like his own son, and David, I think, thinks of Tony that way.
You have a paternal relationship with Davy Concepcion,
I love David.
too.
I love David. He was precious. I'll never forget the first year we had him. He reminded me of a young fawn. I took him over to Dodger, Vero Beach, and I hit to him myself, because I told all the writers that day, I want you to see somebody who's going to be one of the all-time greats. He could play shortstop. Oh, he made a talk, but he was 157 pounds and like a little fawn, his legs. But you knew what you were seeing. It was just a matter of when he matured.
What is intriguing to me is that your favorite baseball man was not known as a player, but as a manager. A guy that some people compare you to, and that's Casey Stengel.
I'm not like him. He's the best. For me, he's number one. Ruth was 2, and Branch Rickey was 3 on what they did and contributed to the game, and that's my opinion. But people didn't understand. Stengel was brilliant. He knew where he was at all the time. A lot of times, Roy, I don't know where I'm at when I'm going. You know, he knew where he was
Sure,
at.
yeah. All right, quick lightning round observations. Pete Rose.
The hardest worker I ever seen.
Joe Morgan.
Most talented mind as far as in a managerial standpoint.
Should he have taken that job with the Astros originally?
I was hoping he would, but now I'm glad he didn't, because I think down the road, after these other things that he's doing pass, then he's going to be perfect for it.
Tony Perez.
The gentleman of gentlemen.
JB, Johnny Bench.
The greatest talent without even trying.
Should he have tried a little harder, maybe?
Yes, but he tried hard, but I mean, he didn't have to.
I know what you're saying.
Everything was just there. I don't know how he was so gifted.
Yeah. Kirk Gibson.
Oh, just a raw, hard-bone, loves-to-win player.
Cincinnati.
I loved the city and the people, because that was my first major league job, and they were so warm to me.
Detroit.
Oh, I tell you, Detroit's probably the #1 sports city in the world. There, everybody knows you, and they let you know when you're not going good.
When we come back on Up Close Classic, Sparky Anderson on one of his most memorable managerial mistakes.
Home run! The Red Sox win! And the series is tied 3 games apiece.
The year was 1975, and Sparky Anderson was on the brink of winning his first World Series with the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds were up on Boston 3-2. It was the 8th inning of Game 6. The Reds were about to wrap up the series when Sparky Anderson made a fateful managerial error.
Why the hell did you pitch to Bernie Carbo? I mean, why didn't you get a different pitcher? Why? Because you were always a guy by the book. If Bernie Carbo doesn't hit the home run, Carlton Fisk doesn't hit the home run, and you win that game without playing that game.
They had the right-handed Latin hitter. Kid was a good hitter.
We'll figure it out.
Sitting on the right side, and the breeze in Boston that evening was blowing out, center and to left. I didn't want him. And Eastwick, I thought, could overpower Bernie upstairs, which he did. He threw the ball right by him.
You talking about Beniquez? Is that what?
Beniquez.
Right.
Okay. And Bernie, he threw the ball right by him. And all of a sudden, I said to myself, wait a minute, he's got 2 strikes. They won't bring Beniquez. Now, this is showing you how stupid you can be. I started up the step, which I never do unless I'm getting him. And I stopped. And you are absolutely 100% right. That was the moment to bring on McEnaney. For one reason, if you want to bring Beniquez, he's going to look at one pitch. He ain't going to get a free ride here. And I don't believe they would have. I really don't. That was terrible management.
Do you cross-examine yourself
Oh,
all
absolutely.
to this day?
Absolutely.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run! The Red Sox win! And the series is tied 3 games apiece.
When Fisk hit that home run, what went through your mind?
I said, remember what they used to say about Tom Landry?
Couldn't win the big one.
Yeah. Well, I said, here's the second one.
I'm snake bitten.
Yeah, I said, and God bless Tom, because I got to know Tom so well. But I was going to be really labeled good.
A 3-time loser?
Oh, absolutely.
If you lost that series, but you didn't.
And maybe, who knows, you know, just because you don't, you're in the World Series, don't mean you're going to keep your job if you lose another one like this.
Fisk hits that home run, and he breaks your heart. And the thing's at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're walking down the corridor. You get a tap on the back of your shoulder, and it's Pete Rose. What did Pete Rose say?
Well, I always called him Peter Edward. And I turned and seen, I said, Peter Edward, what are you going to tell me now? He said, Skip, that's the greatest game I've ever played in. Isn't that the greatest game you've ever been in? I said, I always knew you were nuts. But if you can see that as the greatest game, when I'm not going to sleep all night, and now we're tied up, and I've never been on a World Championship. We lost to Baltimore, lost to Oakland, and now I said, they're going to say he can't win, and you're telling me this, you got to be nuts. He said, well, don't worry about it. We'll win tomorrow. Now, that, to me, people have to know Peter Edward. When you know him, I think is to love him, because he cared so much about competing. It wasn't, and I don't say this wrongly, it wasn't so much winning and losing. Yes, he wanted to win, but it was the competing. This man would compete. He is the greatest competitor I ever seen in my lifetime. Now, I haven't been in football where some of these guys, you know, in basketball and all that, but in my sport, I never seen nothing like it.
Not to put you on the spot.
Oh, that's all
you
right.
know where we're going with this.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you, in your lifetime, like to see his plaque in
Yes.
Cooperstown?
For this reason. Here, this is my reasoning. If he did this,
Yeah.
and let's say he did,
Right.
you know, just for numbers, he did it as a manager, Roy. If there's a piece of paper that shows he did it as a player, then we got to really re-look our situation.
Yeah, but a rule is a rule.
Wait,
It doesn't say player or
Let me
manager.
finish on that, though. If he did it as a manager, absolutely could never manage again. But if he didn't do it as a player, shouldn't he get a chance to be voted on as a player? And then, after he's voted on, never to be able to wear a uniform again. And if people that know him will tell you, if any man had any greater love for the game, the true love of the game, I want to bring him forward.
Still to come on Up Close Classic, Sparky Anderson's split personality.
I know it sounds weird and it sounds crazy and nobody believes this, but I am an extrovert when I'm Sparky. I am an introvert when I'm George.
Welcome back to Up Close Classic. I'm Roy Firestone. The Babe, Tiger, Elvis, Oprah, even Madonna, celebrities who need only one name to be universally recognized. For baseball fans, you can add to that list Sparky.
The nickname came because in '55, you're playing at Fort Worth. The announcer said, "Sparks are flying now," and you got into an argument. And the name just stuck. But for years, you referred to yourself as George. Why did you go back to Sparky?
Because Jim Ferguson, PR man at Cincinnati, my second year there, asked me, would you do me a favor? And I said, Jimmy, if I can, I will. He said, you know, people don't know you too much by George. He said, you sign everything George L. Anderson. He said, would you sign a Sparky for us? I said, sure. And that's when I started signing Sparky in '71.
Your wife still calls you George.
Oh, everybody that knows me, you know, at home.
Is there a difference between Sparky and George?
Yeah.
The chapter in your book said there was. There were
There
two
is
different.
a big difference.
What's the difference?
Okay, I know it sounds weird and it sounds crazy and nobody believes this, but I am an extrovert when I'm Sparky. I am an introvert when I'm George. And now I know that sounds goofy, but when I'm home or anywhere at the golf course or anywhere, I'm very shy because I don't like to have people think that I would. You know, or on an airplane, I'm very quiet. I don't ever ask the stewardess for nothing. But when I am Sparky, like my wife said, oh, I can tell the moment you change. And that sounds weird.
Am I talking to George or am I talking to Sparky?
Sparky.
I'm talking to Sparky. Okay. Just so I know I'm talking. All right, here's our last thing. I'm going to give you one line, and you fill in the blank. The best player I ever played against was?
Roberto Clemente.
The best lesson I learned in the game is?
There ain't no miracles in this game, just hard work.
The happiest I've ever been on or off the field was?
1987.
With that Detroit Tiger team?
Yes.
The lowest I've ever felt in the game was?
When I was let go at Cincinnati in the 1978, after the season.
The greatest player that you've ever seen field a ball was?
The greatest player ever, for me, is everybody else will have different ideas. But if there's anybody better than Ozzie Smith, then I gotta go and check my records a little. Ozzie Smith, to me, is just unbelievable. And the way he handled himself, besides. You know, I add all that in, but I never seen anything like him.
If I could do it all over again, I'd do what?
I would never make the mistake and lose Bobby Tolan. I lost Bobby Tolan because of me, not because of anything Bobby Tolan did wrong. Bobby Tolan needed me to be there for him, and I wasn't there when I should have been.
Baseball. Just give you that one word, fill in the blank.
Protect it, because it's something for all children, no matter how they ever play it or don't play it. But it's a marvelous thing. It's America. That's what it is.
And I guess this would bring the last one then. When it's all said and done, what they'll say about me, George Sparky Anderson, is what?
Only one thing I want them to say, what Walter Olson said about, I came, I gave, I never stole or hurt a soul.
We'll be back with more Up Close Classic after this.
Welcome back. He had his own unique way of expressing himself, and when he had an opinion, he didn't hesitate to reveal it. George Sparky Anderson accomplished things that no Major League Baseball manager had ever accomplished before. His record speaks for itself. But there's something much more. His players loved and respected him. He felt the same way about them. I'm Roy Firestone. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Up Close Classic.
One-on-one with a man who, in the heart of his Major League